Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. If you're a new listener, thanks for finding us. If you're a veteran, thanks for coming back. Today, we're going to talk about kennel training with Hans here. So, if you could kind of define
Either
that.
in kennel or
Yeah,
where you send the dog away or not, you do it yourself with the trainer.
yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
That's what I meant. Is
Yeah, there's two different approaches.
yeah,
know.
which is
And
why
I'm not gonna talk about what is optimal way to train.
optimal way to train. And can you explain just a little bit of what you mean by kennel training? Just
Well,
for
you send the dog
Okay,
to kennel
all right,
somewhere
I
to
know.
train the dog. You know, there's a dog trainer, and you send the dog there, and they take your dog, and you go home and
Okay.
watch TV and drink beer and go to work.
Yep.
While they train your dog there. And then, some places they make you or they ask you to come and kind of slowly keep transferring the training.
Okay. Either way, the dog is there for
Yeah, dog is there and you're there. You're somewhere else.
yeah. Versus
Versus you going there 1, 2, 3 times a week and take the dog home with you.
yeah, it's kind of like we do it once a week with Hans, but we do all
Twice a week.
well twice. I should say yeah. We do the night training too. But we're the ones that actually do the training, and Hans is the one that gently tells us.
Yeah, it's me, I'm Mr. Congeniality.
I'm sure you watch some of those training videos. You see the
Well, people come to my training and they either love it or they never show up again.
There's no in between, pretty much. I can't say that. They just dabble. There's no dabbling, basically, with Hans.
Well,
I know why. I mean, you
I
do
like
what
to
you
put
do.
pressure on the students and
Yeah.
the dogs.
Yeah.
Because especially when you do protection, or even if you don't do protection, even if it's just obedience,
Yeah.
You're going to be under pressure in certain situations, and
Yep.
the dog will perceive you different way.
Yeah.
If you're under pressure,
Yeah.
and he may not respond because he doesn't understand you when you are under pressure.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
If you never were under pressure
Yeah.
around the dog.
Yeah.
But it's a different topic.
Yeah. That's a bad thing. But yeah, if you can kind of tell us the
All right.
pros and cons.
So basically, there are two ways, and I've done both. Okay. To train the dogs. One way, very popular, seems to be more popular than it ever was, is that when you send the dog to doggy boot camp or in kennel training or whatever you want to call it, okay? And then you have the other way where, as I already said, you go to the trainer 1 to 3 times a week. And there's actually kind of third way, which is just derivative of the second way. And that's how I train dogs. The trainer comes to you to your house and you train there. I think that's actually the best. And that's why I did it, But so what happens is when you train the dog, let's say any kind of training, obedience, protection, search and rescue, detection, for any kind of work, and being a family dog, I consider that a work, the ultimate work, okay? You will be as a team. Let's say protection, that's most colorful and descriptive way to example it, okay? So let's say you are going to be working your dog in protection, either as a security or military or police, okay? And or a private. In private, you may never need to use the dog.
Yeah.
Not as much as police does.
Yeah.
But if it happens, people say there is like a 1% or less chance that it's going to happen to you. But if that 1% happens, it happens 100%, right?
It's like owning a gun. Like it's most likely will not.
Yeah. So personally, let's say talking about protection, but it applies to all the other systems. There's an optimal way to train a dog, right? Optimal way. Doesn't mean that different entities can use that optimal way, right? But that's not my problem. My problem is to explain what is the optimal way.
Yeah.
And if you train a little different, that doesn't reflect badly on you. It's just you may do it because, let's say, if you train protection, so you may take the dog in a kennel to train it, or to a training center, whatever. You sacrificing the optimality of the training by doing that.
Okay.
Now, I don't want all these trainers who taking dogs in to get all angry, right? I know a lot of people at me because I'm kind of not saying that's the optimal way. I'm not saying it's the wrong way. I'm just saying it's not the optimal way.
Yeah.
Right? And let's say police or military, they buy dogs and they're already trained a little bit or quite a bit somewhere else.
Yeah.
Right? So it's basically akin to the in-kennel training, right? And they do well and all that, but that doesn't mean that's the best way to do it.
Yeah.
You know, and the best way, I believe, is when the handler or the owner of the dog participates in the training from day one, right? And the reason for that, I'm saying that, is because training dog for work of any sorts is not just training the dog, right? It's also training the handler. And thirdly, training the dog and the handler, the canine team, as a team, as a unit. And I always like to go to the nature, right? So I call it pack of two, right? The handler and the dog, they're pack of two, and dogs are pack-oriented animals, and they learn from each other and communicate with each other in a pack. That's how they survive. And it's part of their nature for millions of years to be that way. So we want to tap into it and be pack when we train the dog, right? Because what the dog learns is for you to be leader, right? And you learn how to read the dog. Let's say you do detection. You know, you can tell if the dog is in the order or not, right? Because you've worked with him, you know, and you communicate with each other, and eventually the communication almost becomes supernatural, right? I mean, I don't want people thinking that I'm crazy, but I believe in that, okay?
Yeah.
And you're like you know what the dog is gonna do, and dog knows what you're gonna do before you do it or before the dog does it.
Yeah.
And it may be supernatural, or it may be because you know in this particular situation the dog is gonna do X, Y, Z, right?
Yeah.
And nobody can do that in some kennel training.
Yeah, it's impossible.
Right?
Yeah.
The other reason why I think it's best if you participate in the training 100% of the way with experience and good trainer is that the dog, this is kind of anti-grammar sentence or difficult, the dog learns to learn from you. That applies to obedience, for example, very strongly.
Yeah.
You know, I'm making dog to do sit or down or stay or whatever, and he learns to pay attention to me, and to learn it from me. And that way I'm establishing again leadership position, and there is nobody who can do that for me.
Yeah.
I send the dog in a boot camp training, as they call it, or in kennel training, as I like to train it.
Okay.
And somebody else is doing that thing. They pick up your dogs and they're establishing the leadership position, and they're learning to communicate with each other. And but that's not you.
Makes sense. This makes sense. It's
Yeah,
not,
but you know what? There's a lot of people will disagree, but that's fine.
I'm just saying
you know.
it's logical.
I'm
That's what
not here
trying-
to butter somebody up. I'm just
I'm not
telling you.
scientific. I'm just saying it's logical. what
Right,
you're
yeah,
saying. It's like
absolutely,
you
yeah.
don't even need to know about dog training.
Right, right.
I mean,
Yeah.
just
So, but
explain it.
I
Yeah,
wanna,
yeah.
I wanna, you know. So now people, a lot of trainers, when I talk to them about this, they said, yeah, but some people are so clumsy and all that.
That
And I
doesn't-
said, well, if they're clumsy, how they're gonna learn not to be clumsy?
yeah.
By sitting home watching TV, drinking beer, and going to work? No, they learn to be not clumsy by doing it with your dog. And they said, well, they can learn that later. But then the dog missed the opportunity to learn from you.
Yeah.
So that's the optimal way.
Yeah.
Now, as I said, law enforcement, military, and all that, like in military or even in law enforcement or prison system, corrections system,
Yeah.
they rotate. Like in Czechoslovakia,
Yeah.
border patrol, for example, you were there for 2 years and dog went through 4 handlers.
Yeah.
So yeah, obviously,
Yeah.
that dog is being transferred on another handler, and they go through training together and all that, and they learn from each other and the idiosyncrasies. But that's not the optimal way.
Okay.
It's okay.
Well.
It's okay.
Yeah.
But it's better, you know. I remember there was this old promotional communist video about border patrol dogs, and it started. They take this Russian Jeep. They call it Gaz.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you know that.
I don't know.
Yeah, GAZ. Gruzavičnými automobilní zavody, which means truck automobile company, right, or whatever, and so for sure Gaz.
That's what.
So they took this Gaz, you know, 2 guys, you know, the dog trainer for the military and the future handler, and they drove somewhere in the mountains, and there was this salty guy who raised a litter of puppies and all that, and they went and look at the puppies, and they listen a lot to the breeder, which puppy would be probably the best. That's always your best bet. You can run millions of tests. That doesn't mean squat as far as I'm concerned. You always listen to the breeder. And if you don't trust the breeder, well, don't buy a dog from him. Go to different breeder, right? And so, you know, and then they selected the puppy, a little puppy, German Shepherd. And they drove back into the military, and then the trainer with the puppy start training the puppy. You know, and that's the optimal way.
Yeah.
How can everybody do it? You know, this guy is going to be there for 2 years, so he raises this puppy. And then they do the apprentice approach, right?
yeah.
We did video on that, right?
Yeah.
So I highly recommend you watching the apprentice video.
Yeah.
Is it published yet?
Yeah, I mean, you mean on YouTube? Just,
Yeah.
we did. I think, the monkey
Yeah,
see, monkey does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, they hitch the apprentice dog with the master dog team, and they follow up and do the work while watching the master.
Yeah.
You know, okay, yeah. All right. So I know I was all in that video, but of course then the soldier goes home after conscript after 2 years. Right, and they cry and all that with the dog.
It's like a real emotional video.
Yeah, it's a tearjerker.
I haven't seen it. We got to.
And then you know, a new conscript come and he learns the dogs with the rope and all that. They kind of learn a lot from each other, but it's not the same as if he picks up the puppy and puppy bonds from the mother directly to the first handler, right?
Yeah.
You know, anyway, that was the video, and that's the optimal way to be the first handler, right?
Yeah.
Now, most dogs in Czech Border Patrol had approximately 3 to 4 handlers because they worked till 8 or even 10 years. Used to anyway. I don't know how it is now. You know, and so they went to 3, 4 handlers or 5.
Yeah.
You know, and so that's the optimal way.
Yeah.
And here in the United States, you know, you have the law enforcement. They buy dogs from Europe, and they're like year old or 2 years old or whatever, and they have different level of training, and that's what they need to do. They don't have a time to scrounge this little puppy, and, you know. Even so, it would be the best way to do it.
Yeah.
Right. You know, and as I said, there are trainers who say people are, you know, clumsy and they don't know how to do it, and so they start the puppy or the new dog, and then after 2 weeks or 3 weeks they transfer they call the owner or the handler of the dog, and then they start working together. It's kind of a hybrid of those two, but it's still you missing the first part, which is the most important. That's where the dog establishes the defaults.
Yeah, the default. Yep.
Right.
Hans talks about the default.
Yeah,
a
that's
lot.
what the dog learns first, like the most, does the best, and reverts to when under stress.
Yep.
Right? And so you establish default, this is my master, and that goes forever. You can only make one first impression. Where if you send the dog in the kennel, the dog learns, oh, this trainer is my master. And then you come and who the heck are you?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I remember when I was with Buddy, the best dog I think I ever have as far as training goes, and he was a great dog, personality-wise and all that.
We have Buddy as the logo, actually,
Yeah.
when you guys look at it,
Yeah.
Hans's YouTube channel.
And, I had Buddy for like 4 years at that time. And Yuri, rest in peace, he came to visit. And I'm sitting in my office, Buddy next to me, he followed me like shadow. That dog loved me. And Yuri came right in the house, and he says, where do I supposed to put my suitcases?
Yeah.
And Buddy, after 4 years, he didn't see him. And he jumped on all four. Whoa, here's my daddy.
4 years.
4 years, man.
Yeah.
See, you cannot.
That proves what you just
Yeah,
said.
you cannot duplicate that.
Yeah.
This, you want to be part of the training.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what Hans is trying to say here. I'm sure you guys are listening here that there's just, it's logical. It's just, it's a default.
And what I'm trying to say, is that here you go again. I'm thinking of Buddy. Shit.
Yeah.
There was an interview with Sophia Loren, and Sophia Loren, I hope most people know she was one of the best actress ever, right? And she had an interview, and the interviewer asked her, hey, how, like when actor needs to cry on a set, right?
Yeah.
They put something in their eyes and they start crying, right? But they don't have to do it with Sophia Loren. She was famous for it. She could make herself cry. And the reporter told her, well, is that true? And she said, yeah. And she says, I remember it like today. She was a pretty woman, man, beautiful woman. And he says, well, can you show me? Right? This is a live interview.
Yeah.
On TV or whatever.
Yeah,
it was not,
Yeah.
it was live. And she would sit, and suddenly tears are rolling down her face, and the reporter asks her, how do you do that?
Yeah.
And she says, I'm just thinking about something sad.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah. Same thing for me.
Yeah.
I got it from my mom, man. As I said, my mom, she was crying on a drop of her head, drop of the head. And we always were making fun of her with my sister.
And now
I'm, and as I like to say, hey, just because I cry on drop of the head, don't mistake me for a weakling. It would be a major mistake you make. Anyway, that's beside the point. But
the default.
It's you're establishing the defaults when you're working with the dog from get-go, right?
Yeah.
And one of the most important default is that the dog looks at you as his partner, as his pack member, as his leader, just like Buddy did, after 4 years, So Yuri, and he just, I never forget, man. It was just like he would hear a gunshot, man. He was just laying kind of head on the floor and all that, and suddenly hear his dad, boom, man. He stood up and just run there.
Yeah,
it was just
unmistakable.
Yeah, it was, and you cannot get that when somebody else train your dog.
Yeah, yeah. So with this being said, as you said, you're just trying to explain the optimal here.
The optimal, yeah.
It's not always for
it's not always
reasons
possible. That doesn't, I mean, it's better to do in-kennel training than no kennel at all. But if you have a choice, go with in-home training, I mean, in your home, or you go to the place to train your dog.
You got to put the effort into the dog, basically.
And it's not the easiest way, but you know what? As I like to say, it's much more difficult to make a Mercedes than Fiat or Yugo.
Yeah.
So you get what you put in,
Yeah, and you talked about that. This kind of relates to the e-collar training in one of the episodes. It's basically
that's a difference. Did we have a podcast on e-collar?
Yeah, well, I put it out already. And there was a question by someone about, well, how does Hans talk about it, but how does Hans do? How do you build that into the dog without an e-collar? And you were explaining, so they were not listening. you were saying it how it does take longer.
So you mean you gotta train the dog by giving him electric? They call it stimulus. I call it electric shock.
Yeah, but you talked about it. It takes petting the dog. It's longer process.
Yeah, it's longer,
but it's deeper.
But it's deeper. Yeah, it's more thorough.
Yeah.
And it may take multiple times longer.
Months,
but that doesn't mean
you have the dog.
Inferior, just like that Mercedes and Yugo, right?
Yeah.
Or Gremlin. Or Pinto, man.
Pinto. We had a Pinto. My dad had a Pinto in America. We didn't even know what the joke was with the Pintos. We moved to America in '83. Finally, we got a car that summer, and we were happy. It was a station wagon. We just had a car. Like, it didn't matter what. Then, the Pinto and this. I'm like, what? And they said, oh, yeah, it's the whole joke with the Pintos because they explode if they hit
I
from
never
behind.
forget. You told me the story how you came and your father painting houses.
Yeah.
And how you were looking for jobs. Mm-hmm. How you how he says, bring me a phone book where the painters, and you brought a phone book, and he says, show me the painters. We didn't speak English, right?
Yeah, he didn't. He had very poor English, and I spoke.
He says you go, Chicago or where? He says you go and call every one of these phone numbers and tell them, my father is a good painter, and he will do just as good or better job than any of your best employee.
That's it. He goes, that's all you have to tell.
Yeah, that's all you have to say. And
so many of them hung up on me.
Yeah, but then one call, right?
One call, then he worked for that company.
See, that's how people appreciate America, man, the immigrants,
Yeah.
It's just a land of opportunity.
Yeah.
We're destroying it here now. It's just sad.
Yeah, that's
but
a different podcast.
Yeah.
I don't know, anything you want to add to this?
I'm not sure. Probably when I get home,
I'm sure. Part 2 will be coming.
Yeah, well,
just trying to be honest here about things.
I think I said everything there. It's in other words, the takeaway from it is the trainer who train your dog, even so he may be more skillful, cannot build a relationship for you with your dog.
Yeah.
He's actually doing it for himself. He's become Yuri, who Buddy remembers him 4 years later.
Yeah.
Well, there's one more thing I want to say, and I don't mean any specific kennels, but remember, your dog is out of your hands, and you don't know how the dog is going to be treated at that place.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm not saying that the kennel you're talking to and all that trainer is bad person or anything, but you never know.
Yeah.
And that alone, in my opinion, is really important. I've worked in many kennels as a dog trainer, and I've seen things which So that's. It's like people, in hospitals, the personnel over there, they become jaded. They have to, people dying and all that, and they just got detached themselves from that. And the same thing with the dog. They cannot get attached to the dog,
Yeah.
right? Because the dog is gonna leave,
Yeah.
right? and all that. So they just, it's kind of, they curb their emotions
Yeah.
and love at best, and sometimes it may even lead to abuse.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So that's another really important consideration. And again, I'm not saying
Yeah, yeah.
there are loving people in kennels. I saw a lot of love, a lot of good care, but I also saw the opposite of the spectrum.
Yeah.
You know, that's
If you enjoyed this content so far, please subscribe to our channel. Also, Hans has a podcast channel called Dog Training for Life. Check that out so you can listen to the audio version.
Yeah, but this is a reoccurring theme here for Hans is the bonded relationship between you and the dog. That's I mean, this will come
yeah.
up.
The dog is not a machine. You know,
Yeah.
it's not like you build a machine and now the machine is gonna work for you.
Yeah,
You can do it that way, but that's not what I want from dog. I want the dog to be part of me, and I want to be part of the dog.
Yeah.
And we're a team, and we love each other, protect each other.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Just like you and Gus.
Yeah. You
We'll
know?
put Gus came out to training, and it was so beautiful. I filmed it actually.
Oh.
When he went up to you like on two legs, like
Oh yeah.
when we did the protection work, and he was like, "Dad, did we do good?" And you were like,
Yeah,
"Good job." It was sweet.
I didn't really realize that.
I know. Yeah, it's on video. Yeah. So
Yeah. So and again, I want to say this is applicable to all working training, search and rescue. You don't want somebody else train your search and rescue dog. You want to do it yourself. Detection, protection, obedience, law enforcement. Now, there's difference between law enforcement and protection, by the way. You know, one is when somebody's coming at you, and most law enforcement dogs do that too, but
generally,
they also mainly they pursue. They're catching dogs. Somebody run away, so they want to catch them.
yeah,
So, which if you're a private owner of the dog, you don't do that.
yeah,
You know.
yeah.
But that's a difference. That's kind of side issue.
But it says on police cars, protect. What does it say on police cars? Let them protect.
protect and serve.
That's what it says. Funny, it says protection. Protect.
Well, they all call it protection,
I know, I'm
but
just
but
kidding,
you
yeah.
know, there's a difference.
I know. Yeah.
You know, so no matter what kind, you know, or you want to go truffle hunting, whatever,
Yeah.
with the dog. I actually sold some to Oregon or Washington
Truffle?
State or whatever truffle dogs for truffle hunting. But the guy want to train himself. He knew, he understood. You know, so,
Yeah. Yeah.
so you want to do yourself because how the dog is going to react and all that. And he's working for you and with you and all that. You know, that's all it's about.
Kind of like there's no shortcut to the top kind of thing. There's no short. You can't.
Yeah, well,
I mean, there.
Well,
you
a lot
can,
of dogs, like, you know, they can work for themselves. That's why that training is. So then they don't do it for you and with you, and then anybody can train the dog. But that doesn't mean that's the optimal way to do it.
Okay.
It may be optimal for that particular scenario,
Yeah.
but it would be better to do it the way I'm saying. At least that's what I think.
Yep.
And who am I? Just dog shit cleaner.
He picks it, dog poop all day long.
Dog shit picker.
Well, thank you, Hans.
Hey, you're welcome, man.
If you're
my pleasure.
if you enjoy this episode, make sure you click, share, like, smash the button, all that good stuff, and we would love new subscribers or just kind of sharing it amongst your friends and just getting the word out about Hans's philosophy on dog training. So I think 50 years cannot be that wrong.
Yeah, it could be, but you never know. You know, if you do it 50 years wrong, you're still doing it.
It's like the
wrong.
Chinese medicine; it cannot be that wrong. 50,
Well,
1,000 years.
when I train dogs, I'm always trying to find the best way to do it. I think I don't do just because somebody told me, right? And so I said, okay, well, there is something. Maybe you can do it different.
Yeah.
You know.
There's always room for
Yeah, room for improvement and stuff like that. All right.
That's it.
Bye.